you're running an ultra marathon, you just become friends with everyone out there. And that's such an awesome community of like supportive competitors. Because at the end of the day, most people are out there to compete with themselves, not necessarily to podium finish. And so you're just trying to help everyone out as best you can.
That's what I love about Team RWB as an organization, the local chapters, regional chapters, the national organization itself, right? It's like this idea of building community through fitness, working at the level that you are at in order to move your body and continue to get better at the pace that you're going to get better. Obviously, you and the other 11 runners are competing in an elite event at an elite level, which provides its own framework for this discussion. But what's great about it is it scales up and down, right?
People are their true, authentic self when they exercise. And so at the end of a race or at the end of a run, and you're just like stretching with a partner, they'll open up to you about some of the issues they're facing in their lives. And it's really cool to see that.
That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Carey Kight. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists, and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills. Episode 139 continues our series with Team RWB and the Old Glory Ultra Relay. On this episode, I interviewed Bill Savage, an Army Ranger veteran, husband, father, and endurance athlete. We spoke about fatherhood, athletics, and setting ourselves up with the community to successfully transition from service to civilian. Welcome. This is Veteran Made. Our merch store is live at store.veteranmadeproductions.com. Grab hats, t-shirts, and hoodies in both performance and tri-blend cotton fabrics. Use code VM-5OFF for 5% off your purchase. Veteran Made is also sponsored by GoPills, a military-grade nootropic that contributes to brain health over time. Use code VM15 at checkout for 15% off. I get my collagen protein from Bub's Naturals, where you can use code VETERANMADE, all one word, at checkout for 20% off your order. We're also proud to partner with True Made Foods, which makes condiments free from added sugar and sweetened with real foods. Use code VET at checkout for 15% off. We love socks in this house. I get my wife new socks every Christmas. More importantly, we love American-grown and made socks. Use code VETERANMADE15 at rucksocks.com for 15% off. And lastly, I end my day with Rack Out from Bravo Actual to maintain quality sleep, resulting in a well-rested body and mind. Use code VETERANMADE with a space between the words at checkout for 15% off your order. Enjoy the episode.
Hey, we are live. Good morning from the great state of Ohio for me. Good morning from the great state of Colorado. Bill Savage, welcome to Veteran Made.
Thanks so much, Carey. Excited to be here.
Dude, you have one of the coolest names ever heard. Like just saying Bill Savage, welcome to Veteran Made, just sounds dope.
I appreciate that. Got a lot of comments growing up, especially in sports, as you can imagine, and the military. Probably got singled out by a couple of drill instructors because of it, but it's all right.
Dude, I'm sure. What sports did you play growing up?
I played soccer and lacrosse for most of my life. And then when I went to college, ended up playing club rugby for a couple of years.
Nice. Yeah, I can see the lacrosse coach. Savage, you're in it, Mitty. Let's fucking go.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, for those who don't know who you are, can you give us just a brief primer on who you are and where and when you served? And then we'll jump into some questions about running long distances.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Bill Savage, come from South New Jersey, so right outside Philadelphia. Some big Philly sports fans, go Birds. Grew up playing sports for most of my childhood. I've got a brother and a sister, went to college in Nashville, went to Vanderbilt University, ended up meeting my wife there, and joined the Army back in 2017. So I served 5 years, 2017 to 2022, as a 11 Alpha infantry officer, served in the 82nd Airborne, and then in the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Very cool. Yeah, congratulations on the Super Bowl. I've never been a big Philly sports fan, never been a big Eagles fan, but I will say that Hurts and Sirianni have like really made that team something that is like something that sports fan, like everyday sports fans, NFL fans, football fans can cheer for, which is really, really cool. Because obviously Philly sports has a certain rap, in the sports world, but it was really fun to watch those two lead the organization. And I had AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on my fantasy team.
Okay.
watched a lot of Eagles games this year, and we're not big fans of the Chiefs in this house, so it was a fun Super Bowl. I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say you had Saquon Barkley on your fantasy team. He would have been a godsend. But yeah, I feel like most people were rooting for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, so it felt good to crush the Chiefs.
I also went to Ohio State, and so I'm a big Buckeye fan, primarily a college football fan. And Saquon is like one of those opposing players from the Big Ten at Penn State that I love him. Like, he's great. He returned that kick, punt. I think it was a kick. Returned that kick against us in the horseshoe when he was playing. And it's a great highlight. It's tough to watch, but didn't win the game, so it's fine. But yeah, Saquon was great. Yeah, the whole squad was just a ton of fun to watch this year, which was nice, and it was good to see the Chiefs lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So you commissioned out of Vanderbilt, got into the infantry, and then got into the regiment. Obviously, fitness is an important piece, an important part of our life in the military. I would say regardless of MOS, because we all obviously have to do PT, we all obviously have to be physically fit in certain capacities. But if you're in the infantry or if you're in the Ranger Regiment or another SOF organization, obviously it takes it to another level. What was selection like for you? What was it like for you to run and ruck at such long distances, at such high paces, quick paces? Was it something that you gravitated towards and really enjoyed, or was it something that you grew to love after service?
I think I came to love it when I was in the service. I mean, I guess before I joined, I liked those sports that were just gritty in nature. People might not think of soccer as gritty, but lacrosse, people think of it as gritty, just getting kind of beat up out there, bruised, blood, but you're like still grinding. And I think that's why I gravitated towards rugby in college. So I kind of developed that mindset that no matter how hard you get beat up, you just got to keep pushing forward, especially in a team environment, right? Like, you're doing it for your teammates. You're doing it to win the game. And so that was always driving me, that competitive nature. And so when I joined the military, whether it be the 82nd Airborne or 75th Ranger Regiment, when I was going through these schools and selection processes like Airborne school or Ranger school, there was just a purpose behind it, that I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it so when I showed up to my unit, they knew that I had the mental fortitude to push through to the final objective. And so I think that's really something that formed me through my military years to now, where I'm a civilian, a veteran. I try to look for those opportunities, since it's not a part of my job, right? I work at a desk job, but I try to sign up for races where I can get in that headspace again, where things suck. You're not having a whole lot of fun, I guess, extrinsically, but you just got to push through it. And the reward at the end is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, and I love what sports brings to life, either before college or before the military, depending on if, veterans are listening or civilians are listening. And that idea of playing a bunch of different sports. I played 1 year of lacrosse in 8th grade. We moved from San Diego to Columbus, and partly for social reasons, and then partly for just getting in shape for football and basketball, which were my two main sports. My dad was like, "You got to play a spring sport." And he was a track champion here in Central Ohio, and then nationally at UCLA, earlier in his life. And so he's like, "You don't have to run track. Like, I know that I ran track and I loved it, but like, you don't have to do that." So I was like, "Well, let me try this lacrosse thing." Like, moving from San Diego to the Midwest, now lacrosse is very big out west, but it wasn't at the time. I'm like, "What is this lacrosse thing?" And so I played it, and I wasn't very good. I ultimately didn't enjoy lacrosse, but what happened that spring was a growth in speed. They put me at midi, and then a growth in toughness, right? Because I had to play both sides of the field and had to get up and down quickly. I didn't have the ball and stick handling skills that everybody else had. And my mindset going in was just to stay in shape and get in shape, for the next summer and fall to go play football in high school. And I look back and I kind of laugh thinking about my lacrosse experience, because while it wasn't great in the sense that I fell in love with the sport, it was great in the sense that it really equipped me for the next several years of athletic endeavors through high school football and basketball, and then getting into the military, going through selection and ultimately not making it, and then working in the job that I ended up working in. And it's like that transition into the military, and we bring sports acumen or sports interest, or just all of those things that come with sports, physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally. They're so helpful. And especially when you play a range of different sports rather than just focusing on one.
For sure. And you brought your dad into it. And I think parents play such a big role in this. And congratulations. I think you're expecting baby number 2, right?
We are indeed. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've got one. We've got a daughter, Emerson Grace. She's 10 months old. It'll be interesting to see what sports she gravitates to. And I want to thank my parents. They never pushed a certain sport on me. It was more so just whatever you do, give it 110% and then see what happens from there. My dad always, before I went out on the field, would tell me that. And I really took it to heart. So I want to do the same for my daughter, see what sports she gravitates to, and then just like go all in with her. Could be softball, could be lacrosse, could be whatever. Maybe it's not a sport, it's something else, but to just support your kids in their passions is something that I can't wait for.
Yeah, and to push them, right? Like I have such empathy for my dad now. We've got a 5-year-old, so she's in pre-K. She's on spring break this week, and so I signed her up for she's been going through swim lessons, so I signed her up for the spring break startup, whatever they do. She does it every morning this week, and we go as a family, and we're sitting there and we're watching her push through physically. She's pretty gifted physically, so she's like more than anything pushing through mentally for some of the things that she's struggling with in the water, which is funny because, when I went through selection in the Air Force, water confidence was not a problem for me because I played in San Diego. Like I swam, I played water polo, I surfed, I body surfed, I snorkeled, scuba dived, like did all these things. So like water confidence was just not a problem for me, which, is as I guess a funny thing to say because a lot of people have issues with it. But so I have empathy sitting on this side, like watching my daughter struggle with things. I'm like, why are you struggling with that? Like but it wasn't something that, she's been exposed to up to this point. And Dre, my wife, and I talk about it all the time. We have certain sports that we have to understand our own biases as parents, that there's a certain culture associated with certain sports that we don't love personally for ourselves, but we want to maintain the openness for our daughters to choose things. But the only way you can choose things is if you try things. Right. And so we want to expose her. She's playing t-ball, she's played soccer. She's doing gymnastics twice a week right now. She's in swim lessons. And so we don't want to overload her either. Right. We want her to have a life, a family life and a social life, but we also want her to try these new things. So I have such great empathy. And I'm sure I'll continue to get more empathy as the kids get older and those choices become more difficult. But that wide range of experiences that we're able to provide our kids really set them up for life in ways that we can't even see right now because they're so young.
100%. Well, I'll be coming back to you when my daughter's a little bit older, and you'll have to give me some advice on some lessons that you learned. Because is number 2 for you? Is it a boy or a girl? Do you know?
She's another girl. Yeah,
another girl. All right. I was going to say each kid's different, each gender's different, and you got to like treat them with different strategies. But yeah, that'll be fun.
Right, and it's like, oh yeah, she's a little girl, but she loves everything. She loves princesses, but she loves superheroes. She's wearing a princess dress, playing with her Iron Man Lego car.
Love it.
Going to t-ball, going to swim lessons, riding her bike, driving the Jeep around, it's like that fun stuff. I will say you're welcome to, we'll stay in touch and be friends. Obviously you're welcome to come to me. I don't give advice. I just give perspectives and I share my own experiences. So, but that's one of the great things about being a dad and being a parent is being able to relate to other people and other dudes in a way that, that just, we all kind of grow as we do it. All right. So jumping back into running, did you start running any events, any marathons or any ultras or anything like that while you were serving, or is that something that started after?
So when I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, unfortunately, COVID happened. And so you just get a bunch of dudes who love working out and give them some time off. They're going to find hard stuff to do. And so we were hiking all these mountains in the Pacific Northwest, backcountry skiing, all those types of things. But I kind of gravitated towards some of the endurance athletes that we had. And they pushed me to sign up for an ultra marathon. So that was kind of my first exposure to endurance running anyway. And then I also did a century bike ride, just these like hour-long events that you had to dig deep mentally. And then I'm also somewhat of a nerd when it comes to the science behind all this. So whether it be nutrition or hydration or just general preparation for these events, I love to kind of learn from the experts on podcasts and videos and stuff. So that's kind of my first exposure. And then again, since getting out of the military, I just found my way to Ironmans and other bike races and other endurance events that have brought me to the Old Glory Relay now.
You follow Ben Greenfield Fitness?
I don't actually know.
He's like an ultra guy. I mean, he's like one of those just endurance athletes. He records his podcast while he walks on a treadmill, and he
Okay.
does Rogan style interviews where he'll go for hour plus, 2 hours plus. And I remember I listened to him a couple of times. I'm like, and he had great content and great guests, and it was really interesting. But I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, it sounds so weird. Why is he out of breath? And then come to find out, hopped on Instagram and stuff, and I saw that he walks on a treadmill. I'm at least standing at a standing desk, but I'm going to get a treadmill in here. But, yeah, we'll dive into some of the recovery and some of the specific stuff as we get into the event itself. But I'm sure you ran 5Ks and 10Ks and stuff going through training and staying in shape with the other guys in the unit. But you jumped right into ultras. You skipped marathons altogether.
I might have done 1 or 2 marathons, but yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon to do that. I think a couple of the other runners just went straight to ultra marathons. I don't know what it is, but it happens.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset thing, right? Especially if you come from the soft community where you're training and operating at such a high level all the time. Getting out of the military and then like just running or just running a 5K or 10K, probably isn't quite enough. So I think that would make sense. I think I was talking to Johnny last week, and he did a couple of marathons, but he's one of those guys who's like, I don't train for any of this stuff. I just like jumped right in, and I was like, yeah, I ran a couple of marathons. All right, what's this ultra thing? All right, cool, I'll try that.
Yeah.
He's a crazy person in the best kind of way.
Well, another piece there too, I think when you train for a half marathon or a full marathon and you want to get a good time, you have to be pretty specific with your training plan. You're looking at your watch all the time, hitting these pavement runs. I do think the ultramarathon community is a community. You can go on these trail runs and run fairly slow, but you're talking to your partner the whole time. And so I think that's another reason why people gravitate towards these longer events, is because you're not worried about your watch because you're going up and down hills the whole time. It's more like chill, I guess, longer periods of time. You create that bond with your training partners. And so I think that's what draws people to it as well.
Yeah, say more about that. Did that happen on your first ultra that you were talking about? Is that what helped you gravitate towards it?
Yeah, and it could happen during road marathons as well. But when you're running an ultra marathon, you just become friends with everyone out there. I mean, you're passing somebody and you're giving them a compliment. It could be anything. Like, keep going, man. You're doing great. Or like, do you need anything? Do you need anything? So if they need a carb packet or whatever, or some water, you just give it to them. And that's such an awesome community of like supportive competitors. Because at the end of the day, most people are out there to compete with themselves, not necessarily to podium finish. And so you're just trying to help everyone out as best you can.
I'm taking a note, supportive competitors. That's the title of this episode. I love that. So yeah, I want to get into RWB here. I wasn't kidding. I am making that note. I just put it at the top of my notes app there. The idea of competitive, supportive competitors, right? That's what I love about Team RWB as an organization, the local chapters, regional chapters, the national organization itself, right? It's like this idea of building community through fitness, working at the level that you are at in order to move your body and continue to get better at the pace that you're going to get better. Obviously, you and the other 11 runners are competing in an elite event at an elite level, which provides its own framework for this discussion. But what's great about it is it scales up and down, right? There are people out there who don't have, like me, I've got a bad injury from service. Like, I cannot run. Like, I run on the beach sometimes if I'm traveling for work or on vacation. I could do like a mile or two on the beach and that's fine. So I row and I ruck and I swim and I do those things, right? But getting out there with other people, my daughter and I took a walk around the block last night with the dogs. And the first half of the walk, we're just talking and I'm talking. She's not really saying anything. And then all of a sudden we hit the second lap and she just opens up and just starts talking and starts telling me about her day, telling me about things that were happening at school last week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're out here moving our body. And then the conversation just flows, which is awesome as a dad. But what's it like for you when you're out there with other people running in this capacity? Like, talk a little bit more about that community and how it gets built and how it reinforces for you the desire to get out there and run.
Yeah, well, your experience with your daughter, I don't think is uncommon. I mean, people are their true, authentic self when they exercise. And so at the end of a race or at the end of a run, and you're just like stretching with a partner, they'll open up to you about some of the issues they're facing in their lives. And it's really cool to see that. I talked with my wife about always showing up, whether you're feeling it or not, right? If it's in the morning or if it's at the end of a long work day, you might not show up with good performance, but show up with your presence. And I think that's what this team is really doing is 6 or 7 days a week, we're getting out and running, even if we're not feeling it. And it's been really cool to see the gains that you see over time when you put in that level of effort. And so over the past few months, it's been a lot of time. I do want to give a shout out to my wife. I mean, running 50 plus miles a week, it's just time consuming. And we've got a 10-month-old at home, so she's been able to help out, making sure she's taken care of. And when I come home, I also want to show up with my presence as a father. So it's just like being there, playing with her, having her crawl all over me. And it's been really fun to just lean into this really busy season and try to make the most of it.
Yeah, you were talking about being a nerd on the science, right? Like one of the things that we tell our daughter is like the physical, you can bring out the emotional and mental framework that you need by bringing it out physically first, right? So like if you're not happy, smile, right? We spent like an hour a couple of weeks ago trying to talk her through that. Like and it was a swim lessons, it was a physical thing. She wasn't excited for swim lessons and she was crying about it. And we just sat down with her and we're like, hey, smile. I don't want to smile. If you smile, you will start to feel better, right? I was like, I used the Anchorman quote. I was like, it's science, you know. My wife laughed, but it was true. We kind of drilled that in with her, and then that became something that she did on her own. Yeah. The next week, she's like, "Hey, Dad, I'm not feeling great about swim lessons, so I'm smiling." And then she started smiling, and then started feeling better, and then now she's crushing it at swim lessons. So that idea scales too, right? Like you're talking about being your authentic self and opening up. Once you move your body and once you do things physically, all these internal, more emotional, spiritual things start to move.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with Team RWB as an organization? And then how did you get involved and selected for the Old Glory Ultra Relay?
Sure. So I got out of the military in 2022. And quite frankly, I'll be honest, I wanted like very little to do with the military. I didn't want to wear military clothing. I didn't want to talk the military jargon. I just wanted kind of a clean break. And we got that when we moved to Denver. A lot of veterans, but not necessarily near like a military base. And over the course of about 12 to 18 months, I just realized I was missing a part of myself and started to really reach out to some of my buddies who I was in the service with. And a buddy at church, actually, his name's Jim Conselman. He's a Navy veteran. He referenced me to Team RWB, said they've got all these cool things going on. They've got a chapter here in Denver you can get connected with. And at the time, they were accepting applications for Eagle Expedition Leaders, which are essentially these veteran backpacking guides. And it was awesome. I love backpacking. We live in Colorado for a reason, even though we both grew up on the East Coast. Hike 14ers as much as we can. And so I signed up and I got selected. And I got to go down to Texas for some resiliency training with Team RWB, where 20 veterans who love the outdoors got to get together, talk about how to have more resilient mindsets. And it was like, I had the time of my life. It was just so awesome to be around veterans, talking about funny stories from the military, wearing the red Eagle shirt that Team RWB gives out to its members. And that kind of started me off on the trajectory of helping with RWB. So that was a few years ago. And so I've been able to get involved there. And then when the applications came out for the Old Glory Ultra Relay, as an endurance athlete, as someone who just loves adventures, I was pumped. But I was like, how am I going to do this? It's going to take 15 days to run across the country. I have a full-time job. We've got a kid. Let me see what the wife thinks. And so I distinctly remember going to the top of my stairs. I had my phone in one hand, and I just looked down the stairs and kind of shout to my wife, hey, what do you think about me running across the country with the American flag? And she gives me this like puzzled look, like, how are we going to do that? And I was just like, you're going to come with us. And so she kind of thought for a second and was like, okay. And that's the supportive wife that I'm so lucky to have, is someone who's just so down for adventure. And I don't know if she's going to come the entire way, but she'll come for a good piece of it. They're going to rent a car from San Diego to Phoenix, then meet back up with us in Nashville and finish in DC. So that's how I ended up as a runner for the Old Glory Relay.
That's awesome. So, I mean, was it just that quick for her to say like, "Hey, we're going to figure this out to come along with you and do it as a family"?
Pretty much. She's the more spontaneous type. I think I'm the more deliberate person in the relationship. So the fact that I had, was trying to make a spontaneous decision, she was in.
Oh, that's cool. She like recognized something in you that you needed, that a little bit extra push and that encouragement, and she gave it to you.
Yep, pretty much.
That's awesome. How does it make you feel that happened, that she provided that thing for you relationally, and that she's going to back it up and say like, "Hey, we're coming with you"? Like, how does that affect the way that you're viewing your participation on this team, knowing that your wife and daughter are going to be there?
It means everything. It really does. Because it wasn't just sure we'll do it. It's sure you can go out for a run, 3-4 days a week, or you can go on a run when you get home from work 3 or 4 days a week. Like that's time that she is allowing me to train for this because she knows how much it means to me. And I try to turn around and do the same for her, support her in her passions and her pursuits. Because some people ask, like, how do you fit it all in? And it all comes back to communication with your spouse. If you're in a relationship, communicate why something's important to you, show up and show them with your time, with your effort, that it's important to you. Don't just say it. And she sees me like grinding on these runs and is able to recognize that and then afford me the opportunity to continue doing it.
Yeah, I need to be better about that. That's such a great lesson to reinforce. What I want to ask what this event and participating in it means to you at large, but I actually want to go back to something you said when you initially separated from the military. You said you weren't interested in the military life, right? And a lot of that manifests materially, right? Like the words that we say or the clothes that we wear, the affiliations that we make. But then you also felt like something was missing, and integrating into this organization helped you find it again. What does that integration look like? I hate the word balance. I think balance is overused and misused and is the wrong way to think about it. It's not about balancing being a civilian and being a veteran. It's about integrating your whole self as a human as you transition out. So what does that integration look like to you now? How do you feel and operate differently now than you did when you first got out and had that lack of desire to stay connected?
Yeah, it's a very deep question, right? When veterans get their first job out of the military, many organizations exist for them to get that first job, but the transition doesn't end there. I am a living example of someone who's still trying to figure it out, and it's been a couple of years. And so when they get their first job, people kind of say bye, congratulations, you're off to the races. But it's often like a 3-month honeymoon period that you have with your first company or first experience outside of the military, where like things are okay, you're happy with the freedom that you now have that you didn't have in the military, but then you kind of hit a wall. And that's where we really need to lean on other veterans who have been through this experience before and ask them like, okay, where did you find your purpose? Because many of us, we stubbornly think that we'll find a purpose at this corporate company that at the end of the day is there to make money. Similarly to we found purpose in the military, but that's not the case. So for me, at least, I've come to this position where I don't necessarily find my true purpose at my company. I find it outside of my work life. And that's helping veterans. It's defining who I am, who God defines who I am, getting involved with our local community and our church. And so it kind of redirected my vision on where my true purpose is outside of my 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, one thing that we humans tend to do for sure, but I think, drilling down a little bit for the veteran communities, we tend to put all these aspects of our lives into different buckets, and we view them separately. And there's some truth to that, especially when you're serving, right? Like when you're serving, that portion of your life needs to take primacy. The mission needs to take primacy. But when you get out and you're afforded the freedom that you were just describing, that's the freedom to do something. It's not freedom from this oppressive bureaucracy that you were a part of. It's a freedom to be the type of human and citizen that you want to be. And so those buckets then get kind of poured into this one big thing. And then we learn to separate them where it's necessary, but then integrate them, as well as understanding how they relate to each other within us and then within the actions that we take.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I've kind of gravitated towards some of the other veterans at my company. A lot of companies have these affinity groups or like terminology. And at one point, and a lot of veterans make this mistake, they think companies should hire them because they're veterans. And that's just not the case. You should hire veterans because what they learned in their service, not because of their service. It's because they're good teammates. It's because of who they became while they served, which make them valuable assets to any company. And some of the best leaders I've worked with are veterans. It's no knock against civilian leaders. I work with incredible civilian leaders as well. But veterans just bring a unique perspective to the workforce that is one of integrity, of hard work, and just selfless sacrifice that we were ingrained while in the military.
Yeah, I think one of the great gifts of service and one of the great gifts of transitioning from service to civilian is what you talked about earlier, which is it's an ongoing transition. So one of the things that we as veterans bring to the private sector, whether it's within a corporation or small business or being an entrepreneur and running our own shop, is that because we're experiencing that continuous learning, that continuous transition, that continuous opportunity to evaluate where we are, where we were, where we're trying to go. Again, not to dismiss that some civilians do that as well, but we have this very specific framework that's in place because of the nature of the work that we did and the more pronounced transition that we had to make. That continuous learning, that continuous transition is actually a gift. It's not a hindrance. It's an opportunity to continue to refine those frameworks.
Absolutely. Yep. And we got to lean on each other. There are way too many veterans who get out or are in the process of getting out who are blindly applying for jobs. And this is where the power of networking comes into play. I mean, if you're trying to get a corporate job, it's separate if you're pursuing entrepreneurship or something else. But you have to talk to people within the company to get you that internal referral code, to get your resume at the top of the pile. I can't emphasize that enough. People have heard it a million times, but for some reason still don't do it. So if you're looking to get hired, please find a veteran at that company, tell them what you're looking to do, and allow them the opportunity to help you in the process.
Yeah. And learn how to relate to the non-veterans there in a way that sets yourself apart, right? Like while we were serving and doing all the cool stuff that we did, the people that we're now going to be working for and with have been doing the thing that we want to do now while we were serving. So while we have things that we offer to bring to the organization, like you're describing, they also have so much to offer us if we just open ourselves up and say, hey, I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand. I want to integrate into this culture, into this community, into this business, and like really understand what sets me apart as a candidate because of my service, like you said, but also what do I need to do that I'm not seeing, that I don't know that I need to do because I'm taking a non-traditional path.
Yep. Be humble, be lifelong learners. It's really important.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So how's prep going? You've mentioned the miles that you're running, the time that you're spending. How's prep and training going? What are you looking forward to about this event? What is in the back of your mind is something that you're nervous about or wondering about or scared of? Like how are you feeling emotionally, physically, all that?
Sure. Well, I'll say in the back of my mind, just throughout training, it's volume. It's getting enough miles each week to prepare ourselves for this absolutely insane 17 miles a day for 15 days event. But what's in the front of my mind actually is just recently they came out with the shifts for each of the teams. Just a quick background. So there's 12 runners. There's 3 teams of 4 runners each, team red, team white, team blue. I'm on team blue. On Friday, they told us that our shift was going to be 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so it's great. We get to see the country that we're running across. My heart goes out to the other teams that are going to be running at night and not be able to see things. At the same time, I've been reflecting a lot in these last 24 hours as I went to the gym and did a sauna session at how brutally hot it's going to be as we're running across the Southwest, Texas in the middle of May. I mean, I quickly researched some of the average highs for those days, and they're mid 90s, could easily get into the triple digits. We're also going to be running on pavement, so I think that adds about 5 to 10 degrees. for all the heat that's reflecting off that surface. So my mind right now is trying to turn to the experts on how will the bottom of our shoes fare on this really hot surface? How will the bottom of our feet fare on really hot shoes? The amount of bodily fluids we're going to sweat out, and how to refuel and replenish electrolytes and water intake, what types of sunscreens to use, like all these things that are really tactical but could really make the difference between you performing well and you absolutely bonking and putting the team in a tough spot. So that's, I guess, what's front of mind over the last 24 hours.
I love that you're bringing the tactics up, right? Because I think it's I'm not a runner, right? I'm going to be on the road with you, but I'm going to be comfortable, relative speaking, helping to coordinate the camera crew that's going to be shooting this documentary. But so I say this with as much humility as I can muster, because I'm not going to be actually running. But I think through the conversations that I've been having with folks, it's actually easy to get caught up in the strategy, right? The high level strategy of what's going to happen. How are we going to do this? Like, how is this all going to come together? I love that you're drilling down on the tactics, like all the way down to the bottom of your shoes, right? Like thinking about that. I love the tactical mindset there, to be thinking about like, all right, yeah, how, but how, like how down here is this actually going to work?
Yeah. And that's, I have the military to thank for that, right? When you're in the 75th Ranger Regiment, you're a direct action raid force. And so you're planning these very quick in and out type of missions, kicking down doors, getting the right guy or getting a cell phone, whatever it might be. And so every little detail matters. And sometimes I will admit I can get bogged down into some minor details, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's really important to ask these types of questions when you're in a state of, calmness and you have time to think about it, instead of when you're out there, your decision making is already going to be impaired through the heat and whatnot. So you'll benefit from thinking about it now instead of when you're in the middle of the race.
Yeah. Plan now, execute when you need to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how's that communication going? Like, are you letting your other team members on blue and also the ones on red and white know, like, hey, I'm thinking about it this way. How are you guys thinking about it? Maybe you should think about it this way. Are you getting other frameworks and understandings from the other runners in their prep and training and mindset and approach? How is the communication going between the runners?
It's going well. We have a team call tonight, so I've got this draft email that I haven't sent out yet that I'll bring up with other runners, because I told you I was in the sauna in the last 24 hours. I think the sauna could play a really important tool in our training. So whether it be at the end of an easy long run, you hit the sauna for 15 to 20 minutes, that should get your body ready for the type of heat that we're going to endure in May. So I just want to pick their brains. We've got a doctor that's going to be supporting us, Dr. Vol, who I want to hear from. We're fortunate to have an ultramarathon coach, Zach Bitter, who I think will have a lot to say on this. And then, JJ and Sully, I'll probably just CC them for awareness on where my mind's at, because they have been incredible. The whole Team RWB staff has just been unbelievably supportive in figuring out the strategic level stuff and how to get people involved, handling corporate sponsorship relationships, and supporting the runners and what we need. So I'm happy that they're dealing with that, and I can focus on, what I'll be contributing, which is just one foot in front of the other. Is, not as fast as I can go, but a pretty fast 7 minute and 30 second per mile pace if we can keep it up across the country.
I love it. What does this event mean to you? What does it mean for you to participate in Team RWB's Old Glory Ultra Relay, to set a world record for the fastest transcontinental relay from San Diego at the USS Midway to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. at the future site of the Global War on Terror Memorial? What does it mean to you, Bill?
It means so much. And I will say my answer is going to differ from had you asked me this question a few weeks ago. When I first signed up, I would say that I'm doing it because I love my country and I'm proud to be an American, first and foremost. I'd say I'm doing it for my daughter, as we spoke about. I want to show her that it's important to do hard things, because along the way you learn a lot about yourself, and to do it for a bigger cause as well. And thirdly, I'd say I'm doing it because it sounds like a really cool adventure, quite frankly. So that would be my answer when I first signed up. Over the course of the past few months, it's changed a little bit. We've been able to go to Arkansas twice now with the team. And I'd say the reason why I'm doing it now is for the other 11 runners, to hear their stories, to meet them, to know that we're going to be tackling this as a team is really important to me. So I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for, all members of the Army, of the 82nd Airborne, of the 2nd Ranger Regiment, 2nd Ranger Battalion, where I served, and all veterans of the greatest military force the world has ever seen. I mean, I think RWB is doing a really good job at redefining the veteran stereotype. Traditionally, or I guess currently, people sometimes see veterans as broken, with injuries, maybe with PTSD, and we need to change that. Like when you ask your daughter, what do you think of when you think of a U.S. military veteran? I want her answer to be like strong, capable, resilient, brave, courageous. Like those are the terms that I want our children to say when they're asked, what do you think of U.S. military veterans? And I think this event is doing that. It's showing just how strong we are, carrying the American flag across the country at a quick pace. So that's why I'm doing it. It's changed, but certainly proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, we have to do it ourselves. We cannot rely on anybody else to do that for us, to change. We can't rely on anybody else to change our hearts and change our minds. We have to do that for ourselves and with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool that we're doing it with the flag too, right? Like that didn't need to be a part of this. We could have just done 12 veterans running across the country, but the fact that we're carrying an American flag, it's a public symbol of the strength of our country. And I've been able to reflect a lot and even do my own research on the American flag. It's, I started to see it a little differently. I've always been proud of the flag. There's something about like, George W. Bush, standing on the rubble at 9/11 with the megaphone saying like, I hear you, we hear you. And the people who tore down these buildings will hear from all of us soon. Like that just gives me goosebumps just saying that out loud with the American flag flying behind him. But as I have reflected on it these past couple months, it stands for so much. I mean, freedom, liberty, justice, and it's the most recognized symbol in the world for a reason. This statistic blew my mind. Since our founding, over 600,000 people, men and women, have died for that flag in combat operations. Over 500,000 people. That's how much this flag means to people, and we're going to be carrying it across the country. It's also one of the most revered symbols. So 2 examples that I've been able to reflect on are when the national anthem plays at sports stadiums. I'm from Philly. We tend to drink at games, but when that national anthem starts to play, everyone takes off their hats and they honor that flag with silence. No one's talking. That is incredible. And then a more morbid example is the flag draped over coffins to show just a small token of gratitude for those that have served their country. If you find yourself in the middle of a conversation walking past a graveyard and you see that, no one needs to tell you. You're just going to shut up. You're just going to respect what's going on there and shut your mouth. And I think that's just the power of this flag. And I'm really excited to see as we carry it across the country, just what cool things that we're going to see, like people that run alongside us or post on social media, like what that meant to them. It's going to be a really, really powerful event.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I want to start to wrap things up here. We're going to link out to Team RWB's Old Glory Ultra Relay link where folks can go donate and help with the fundraising efforts. But Bill, where can folks follow you, follow your training journey and your life journey on social media?
Sure. Not a huge social media person. I'm probably going to delete it as soon as this race is over. But it's at the Bill Savage is my Instagram. But you can follow me on Strava or LinkedIn. I'll probably keep both of those.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Bill, to end each episode of the podcast, I ask an open-ended question. What's on your heart and your mind for our community right now? Could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate that we've already talked about today. But Bill, what's on your heart? What's on your mind?
I would just like to wrap it up by saying thank you, Carey, for offering the platform for us runners to share our stories. Encourage people to find a community of people who are bettering themselves, Team RWB, Team Red, White, and Blue, is a great place to start. But try to find your purpose in life. I'm a big believer of God, and that's kind of where I find my identity. But it could just be a higher power, somewhere you turn to figure out why you're on this earth. Reflect on that, get with people who make you a better person, and get out there and exercise. Because as we already talked about, when you're able to exercise, challenge your body, your true authentic self comes out. And so surround yourself with people who will support you in those endeavors, and you'll be happy you did so. So thanks, Carey. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Bill. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your energy. Looking forward to getting out there on the road with you and the family and the rest of the friends.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
All right. See ya.